Today I've got quite a few different things to share with you. Firstly, a lo-fi pop song that I've been working on, and I'll dive into that in way more detail later. But also there are several projects outside of the studio that I've been working on or that I'm about to do, which might make things a little bit different over the next few weeks. But of course, if you're new here, it's great to have you, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're the best. But now let's just get into these interesting projects. If you've been watching for a while, you'll remember that I was working out of a bedroom studio setup that I had before we built the music studio. And it's still my current bedroom, but the plan is to turn this from my bedroom into a music studio setup for my brother Osh. It should be a relatively similar setup to mine, but we'll move the bed out, and we've got some material here to make more of the acoustic panels that I've mentioned that are in my studio. This time going for a slightly darker grey colour, and we'll probably paint a couple of the different walls, kit this room out with acoustic panels, and try and get it a top-notch setup for my brother. I'm excited to do that because it's always fun putting those kinds of things together, and if you want to check out my brother's channel, it's linked down below or up here. So that's project number one. And the second project, but probably the bigger project, is trying to turn this area as a gym. There's the music studio there. We're going to turn this into a big gym. So we're actually going to take all the stuff there that's down right now, clear out some of these other sheds to make room for the things that are in there, and then turn that whole thing into a big gym. We're also then going to build a rig outside so that we can do other workouts outside, pull-ups, muscle-ups, that kind of thing, because right now this is what I have been working on. Pretty rickety, like the whole thing just shakes. It's really not very safe. It's okay for pull-ups, but it's really far from ideal. And we're also gonna have to fix our basketball hoop because the winds and the snow that came in recently caused the bolt to tear out. So yeah, here's a bunch of the boxes that I keep for all of the music equipment that I have that I've got to sort through. And we're gonna take this whole shed down and all of this down too and build the cool gym. And there's the music studio. So lots to do, best get started.
Look at the size of those nails.
Okay, the shed is officially down.
The sheds have been taken down, and we've got this little bobcat to start clearing the grounds for the foundations. Nice. I'm really excited about both of those projects, and I'll be keeping you updated on the channel here, and my brother and sister will be posting videos about both of them on their channels too, so definitely check them out. You've been listening to the lo-fi pop track in the background so far, but here it is in full.
So what's new? Well, only a galaxy in motion, well, only reality unfolding, but nothing other than the deepest blue in the ocean. What about you? Who knew? 'Cause I thought that I would never know this. A friend going through the same explosion. Felt like I would be the only one out on my own. But what about you? And oh, I hide sometimes, scared to lose this dream. Then I realize you're reminding me that as we lie here, nebulous collide, and I'm running out of words as the night sky said.
hope you're enjoying that. I was experimenting a little bit with some crazy lead sounds and other sound design, and I want to show you a bunch of that. So let's just dive into it. I've really been enjoying experimenting with using 3/4 tempo, and it seems to be relatively rare within pop music, whereas 4/4 tempos are, I guess, a lot more predictable and easier to work with, but I really think it adds a different feeling entirely to the overall emotion in the beat. The drums overall are very simple. The pattern doesn't really change all the way through, though I do have some automation to duck the volume down and also to filter out the high end leading into the drops and in the pauses within the drops. But I just went for some nice crispy lo-fi type drums. And there isn't too much else to the drums. I just tried to make the kick and snare the most obvious and then just layer textures with foley and other sounds around it just to fill that sound out. And of course the kick and the snare are side chained to all the other instruments and the bass so that they can be compressed and ducked to emphasize the transients of the kick and the snare. And that's the drums. The song originated from this guitar loop that I was playing around with. So I have the raw dry guitar here, but I filtered it out with an EQ, did a little bit of compression, and then also added in the serum effects, which has become one of my favorite ways to start distorting sounds, but it's very, very subtle. I've then sent it across to this delay and really pushed the feedback distortion right up to give this rich sound at the tail. So although the delay is very distorted, the overall sound is very mellow, rich and warm. And that's the guitar. Onto the sub, it's just a selection of square or saw waves in vital with a little bit of distortion put onto it. And the chords in this song, it just alternates between F and A sharp. They're really not that complicated, so the sub didn't need to be either. I just wanted it to be this warm supporting sound underneath. But in order to add a little bit more texture to it, I took this string bass so those are really paired together all the way through. But this main sub here stays centered in mono, I guess you could say, and the string bass I've sent wide and stereo separated. And I've also EQ'd this a little bit, so I've actually taken most of the heavy sub out of this. It sounds rich and full when it's on its own, but if you leave that in there, then the two end up competing with each other, and the overall sound just ends up being far too overpowering. I got that sound from the Spitfire Audio BBC Symphony Orchestra. I'll put a link down below. You head to their website, fill in a really simple questionnaire, and then they send this to you for free. And the sounds that are in there are really wonderful. So I used it for that bass cello, but I also added in some pizzicato strings to emphasize the 3/4 rhythm. Then onto the synths. I started off with this ARP sound. But melodically it was a little bit too crowded and busy, so I just sent it to a reverb channel. And then pulled the dry volume down completely, well almost completely, so that you were mostly just hearing luscious reverb. So it just creates this nice ambient atmosphere. And then also did the same thing with sound in serum. Those are generally quite quiet, but they really fill out the ambient space again in the background. Then the key part, and the most interesting out of all of this, is the big built-up electronic drop, where I have just layered lots of rich synth sounds. So the supporting synths are this vital pad, and they are just playing the main chords and they just hold on all the way through. Then I also have this serum grit, I've again filtered that quite a lot in the low end so that it's really just bringing out that distortion, that grit up in the high end. I've then also layered in that extra ARP sound that I mentioned earlier. And then onto the main and most obvious sound, which is this crazy vital lead. So I'm using quite a lot of bit crush to really get that heavy distorted sound. One of the key things to get this sound to work is having the glide turned up, so that when it's moving between notes, it has a gentle glide between them. If I turn it right down, it sounds a little bit too Mario Kart, so I wanted to smoothen out those notes. I sent that sound to reverb and delay. And using that reverb and delay and the massive sound that comes with that, I would print that out and make these additional hits just to make it hit even harder. And then also use those to create a bunch of different reverse sounds. Now, one of the other cool things that I was experimenting with, which I would definitely recommend because it's a lot of fun, is adding a gross beat to that sound. I would experiment with lots of the different ones. The one that I'm using here is the quarter pitch up, which I could actually use to make a riser. So I just printed those out and used them as risers here. And used them as fallers as well. And then also pitched one up an octave and one down an octave. Pushed them left and right, give them even more space. It sounds ridiculous. It's just a really nice rich texture to add alongside it. Fills the high end out with even more energy and gives it a bit of movement. I thought it was really good fun playing around with those sounds, and there's so much more that you could do with those. This definitely isn't a complete idea. There's lots of other adjustments, layers and things like that that I would like to add in, especially with the vocals, some other ad-libs and some other more rich vocal pads. But that's the bulk of the idea. The only other things that I added in were the vocals, of course, and I just have one main lead vocal line here.
And oh, I had sometimes scared to lose this dream.
And then a vocal pad to go along with it.
Oh, I had sometimes scared to lose this dream. Then I realized you're reminding me that as we lie here, nebulous colliding.
But there's certainly other harmonies and layers that I would like to add in alongside that, and hopefully all that will come with time. I just wanted to try and create a sound that captured how it feels being speechless at something vast in nature, like lying down and looking up at the stars, not really knowing what to say about it, but you also don't need to say anything because they speak for themselves. So that was that. I really hope that you enjoyed the track and you found this video valuable, and if you did, you know what to do. I really look forward to sharing the next video with you, and you can probably click on one of those right now, but until then, believe in yourself and you will be unstoppable. Bye.
I'm running out of words as the night sky said.